Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our first NBC Bank weekend preview brought to you by First NBC Bank with 35 locations throughout the metropolitan area, Southeast Louisiana, the Florida Panhandle, and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. New Orleans Saints training camp underway at White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. Rain on the first day, a lot of long balls the first 2 days. That's encouraging. Talk about leadership. Talk about getting their edge back. Players seem to be happier. Listen, this is about what you'd expect at this point in time.
You know what's interesting, that the one thing that I found just in the first couple of days and in hearing some of the comments that were made is a lot of comparisons being made to 2006 with this team, and that's – yeah, I could see where that comes from. There's, you mentioned not a lot of expectations at this point, coming off a 7-9 season. Obviously, this team has a lot of the pieces that were there from some of those great runs, but we're now 6 years removed from that Super Bowl team, and only a handful of players that are left from that team, most notably number 9. But you want to find a way to create that edge, motivate your players, whatever it is. If there's anyone better at it in the NFL than Sean Payton, I'm not quite sure who it is, or if the list is there, it's very, very short. So he will find those things to push buttons and get people to kind of raise their level, and it starts with camp.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you mention that Super Bowl team of 2009. I was thinking to myself, I can count those guys on one hand, and I think I just did. Jerry Evans, Zach Strief, who was not a starter, Marcus Colston, Drew Brees. I can't recall anyone else. Nobody on defense, and I don't think anyone else on offense.
That's about it. I mean, there's not much. So it's
Thomas Morstead.
Thomas Morstead. Yeah, that's it. So five. You counted them there. So there you have it. It's this is what do they say? The NFL not for long, right? So guys are constantly changing over, and obviously we're seeing some of the things. And the other thing that this week before things got started was just the comments of Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton addressing the Junior Galette situation for the first time, and it was interesting to hear them take some ownership in terms of this decision to sign him to a 4-year, $41 million extension a couple of years ago. Ed Daniels made a good point. Could you have made this move before March, before you had to pay him a $12.5 million roster bonus at that point? Maybe so. But they gave it a chance to play out. It didn't work. We talked about that obviously already. But it was interesting to hear their thoughts and realizing, hey, we've got to move on. Those things happen. Have we hamstrung ourselves? Yes, a little, but you got to move on.
Daily pieces on the Saints at SportsNOLA.com. Come there every day and you'll find what you want to find regarding the New Orleans Saints. Meanwhile, the New Orleans Zephyrs wrapping up a homestand, Colorado Springs tonight. Boy, this has been a weird team. They had a drastically bad losing streak, follow that up with a huge winning streak, then split a doubleheader Thursday. So this team's been wildly inconsistent.
They have, and I don't think it's been as much pitching as it is hitting. They started swinging the bats. They started winning games. The pitching's been pretty solid all the way around, but when you don't score any runs, it's hard to win. And now they're starting to swing it a little bit. Be interesting to see if there's any late moves that perhaps affect their roster a little bit. The moves the Marlins have made up until this point have been more at the lower level of the minor leagues, some Class A and some Double A guys. Marlins, of course, part of that 13-player deal with the Braves and the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. A lot of moves being made. The deadline, of course, is the non-waiver deadline. There could still be moves made in the month of August, but the non-waiver deadline comes Friday afternoon.
The New Orleans VooDoo out of sight, out of mind of sorts. They have 2 games left to play, both on the road. They're at Philadelphia this Sunday to play a team that they've lost to already this year, a good team at that. And again, 2 games left, that game, and then one more to follow that, and then maybe the end. The quiet is deafening because it doesn't seem that much is happening on the ownership front.
Well, and one thing, look, they moved the schedule back. I think that's probably a bad idea for them to be trying to play the end of the regular season and the playoffs right up against NFL training camps and college camps and preseason games and things like that. Their season needs to end in July. They need to go February to July and fit that window when there is no football, as opposed to, they slid back the season a little bit. And you're right. I mean, obviously, there's not been a great deal of interest here, but that's one thing on a league-wide level that needs to happen.
Well, the league needs to change drastically. I think you're going to lose teams. I don't know if you're going to bring in new teams. What they have to do, Lenny, is reduce the number of games. 18 games is too many. When you have teams playing each other 3 times in football during a season, that's too much. And that would accomplish what you talked about, is reducing a couple of games.
Sure. I mean, it's very simple. If you got a 12-team league, you play 2 6-team divisions, and you play everybody in your division home and home, and you play everybody in the other division once. You got 16 games. That takes care of 2 weeks right there. You're making 3 trips that are a little bit longer to the other conference or division or whatever it is you call it, and everybody in your division you're playing the same way. You're playing them all home and home, so you've got a balance that everyone is basically playing the same schedule.
High school football, of course, daily features promoting teams for the upcoming season. You can read those previews of each and every team that you can possibly imagine from all sectors of the state: Ponchatoula, North Shore, Bird. We'll have one on John Ehret going up on Saturday, another on Pope John Paul II on Monday. So each and every day, get a profile of a team, Lenny, and it's always good to prepare for high school football.
It is, and they're getting ready to get it revved up. First full day of practice is August the 10th. We'll have scrimmages 20th, 21st, 22nd up in there. Jamborees the week after that, and we kick it off for real the first week of September. It is here.
Yeah, well, it is here indeed. We're looking forward to it. It should be great. And as always, go to SportsNOLA.com to find what you're looking for high school sports. Lenny, it's always a pleasure. Have a great weekend.
All right, I'm going to do my best and leave it to you and Jude for a few days. I'll see you in about a week.
That's very nice of you. Enjoy yourself. That's our First NBC Bank weekend preview, brought to you by First NBC Bank, with 35 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana and now in the Florida Panhandle. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. He's Lenny. I'm Kenny. Have a great weekend, and God bless you.